Yeah, I mean, people move for many reasons, right? And I
Hmm.
think if you grew up in the GTA or Canada or where we are, Montreal, and
Right.
you have a lot of roots there and a lot of history there, um, maybe you'd be not more, you'd be less apt to move per se. Someone who was born and raised in the GTA and their parents were as well,
Hmm.
it's not in their kind of DNA to pick up and leave.
Well, looking at your story, right? You were moving from place to place and going to school here and there, right? And then you see it as an advantage, right?
Yeah.
So for your son, it
Yes.
would probably be the same thing,
Yes.
wouldn't it?
Yeah. You're right. What you said. I mean, the when as a kid moving, we moved a few times to new countries, so it's more the fear of the unknown. But once you're settled, kids, especially kids, they adopt and assimilate very quickly.
Um, so Omar, after our last conversation, I was thinking about remember about the nostalgia the immigrants have to their home countries, and they think they want to go back to their home countries. But what I experienced actually was I was wanting to go back to Poland, as you know, right, in 2008,
Yeah.
right? It didn't work out. Came back to Canada, right? And but I realized I could not stay here. I've been here. I've been here like for 20 years, right? I just felt I needed to get out from the same place I've been for 20 years, right? And I finally found that Montreal was the place to go. I went, and I've been there like since 2012 for the
Mhm.
last 10 years,
Yeah.
and I felt I kind of the craving for moving to the home country stopped. Right? Isn't that interesting? That all you need, and I don't know whether this is immigrant character. Do we have it in blood? In our blood, that we just need to change places from time to time.
Okay.
When we get, used to it too much, when we may have, we may have been fed up with that, with the place, and we just need we just need a change.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how to answer it. So, I mean, I was born here. I come from immigrants who migrated. Both my parents migrated
Right.
from Lebanon and the U.S. So, yeah, I think maybe you're more open to move if it's a lot of people who were born and raised in Canada, especially the greater Toronto area,
Hmm.
are probably more not susceptible to move for, and they say people move. I mean, I'm going back to university, one of a geography class, one of them I took, and it's stress versus inertia. They used to have a professor had a model on
Okay.
why people move,
Okay. Hmm.
and I'm just kind of thinking back to that. So I think if people stress can be measured in different ways,
Hmm.
obviously, and inertia as well. So maybe you or people who feel like things aren't progressing. Yeah, I mean, people move for many reasons, right? And I
Hmm.
think if you grew up in the GTA or Canada or where we are, Montreal, and
Right.
you have a lot of roots there and a lot of history there, um, maybe you'd be not more, you'd be less apt to move per se, right? Because when you're leaving, if you have a lot of extended family, you've been there since your childhood, it's probably, you have a foundation there, I guess. So,
Yeah.
I mean, to stress inertia, what I was getting at, maybe how they'd measure it, stress being economic, social, many factors, right? can cause you stress. Maybe you think you're not making as much money. Maybe you're not living a certain life that you expected. So someone migrating over, like my father and my mother, they were more open to moving
Hmm.
than maybe myself or my brother or sister, who were all in Toronto. But we moved multiple times growing up.
All right.
So my sister and brother in their adult life by themselves did live in other countries.
Hmm.
I, we all moved every 4 years growing up, but I basically lived in the GTA Hamilton since then.
Right.
But
So you've been brought up in here, right? You didn't feel that need to move to another
I
place,
don't,
right?
I mean, I think it's in me. I've had opportunities.
Right. So
Uh,
just pleasure or adventure kind of thing.
so no, I've had opportunities, to move to say California when I was maybe in my 20s, for work, and I had family out there, cousins. So, and maybe even Dubai, London. So I've had multiple chances
Hmm.
to move, but mainly things that I guess the reason I maybe didn't at the time. There's many factors, but maybe I had my girlfriend. I was in a long-term relationship was one, so that's not easy to leave that.
Right.
So things like those type of factors. But did I travel a lot? Yes, and visited friends and looked at opportunities. Yes, I mean that I would be open to moving. Yeah, now even if there was an opportunity, it depends where, I guess.
But this is strictly economic for
Not
economic
just
reasons,
economic. No,
no?
I don't think so. At this point, I mean, I think I'll work another 10 years
Hmm.
or so,
But
10 to 12, but
when
it's not all economic. I mean, that's a factor, absolutely. But I guess what I'm getting at, there's many factors why people would want to move, and everybody's different. It's all in different contexts. I think for a lot of my friends growing up, say outside in GTA, in a more suburban like Burlington environment, they'd be less apt to move just because their parents were generally from there and they didn't really move themselves, and
right,
it's a very strong community that's been a couple of generations there, a lot of my friends, whereas my parents were both immigrated
so
and moved around a lot, and we moved around as kids, so I'd be much more open.
so yeah, so that brings actually maybe one conclusion here, right? That having an immigrant family, you are being brought up in this environment of constantly talking about other countries and moving here and there, and even visiting your family. You are kind of this mindset, open mindset to go to another country as easy, just like
Well,
that,
yeah, I
right?
think we're much more open to it the way we grew up, my brothers and sisters. Yeah. So we would be more open to the opportunity, and we don't feel like, we have, I think it's, if you haven't experienced moving ever as a kid out of town, then as an adult, you're probably less motivated, or it would take a lot more factors in order for you to actually move to another city, mainly economic or social. So someone who was born and raised in the GTA and their parents were as well,
Hmm.
it's not in their kind of DNA to pick up and leave. You see what
Right.
I mean?
Well, moving to another city in the same country is not such a big deal, right? Like it's
Well,
more moving to another country,
no, I
right?
mean it isn't, but even that, I mean, there's a lot of people that don't wouldn't even consider moving, say, to Vancouver from Toronto or Montreal. I mean, they don't see, unless it was a purely maybe an economic one that they could refuse. I mean, there's many factors. It isn't, but moving to another country, it depends. Like I said, it has to kind of be in your dynamic family dynamic already. Or people, I don't think even consider it. Even like I know right?
I noticed that generally speaking, majority of any society, prefers to stay where they have been brought up,
Yeah, their roots,
right? With
the
their
roots
roots,
are, yeah,
right? Like I observe Ukraine, right now, and there is a lot of people who escape the carnage over there. And from hearing some Ukrainians who already entered Poland,
yeah,
right? Some of them could not wait to come back, to go back to Ukraine,
of course.
and some of them already did, right? Because the Kiev and western part of Ukraine is not as much affected as the east of Ukraine, right? So
Yes.
they found an opportunity in the fact that okay, there is less risk going to the west of
Yeah.
Ukraine, and so that I can go back home, right?
Yeah.
So the war is raging, but still people crave
Look, I mean,
their home.
I could give you many examples of my family or extended family that moved back to Lebanon during the height of the Civil War. And like you said, there are other factors they consider when taking those, people that didn't know the context of the war or what was involved in that move would think, why would you ever consider that? But like you said, Ukraine, there's certain areas that are quite peaceful. There's a lot of other factors involved,
Hmm.
but you're right. People look at many other variables when they consider those moves. Yeah, I think if you broke it down, I don't know the numbers, but most people that grew up, coming here or parents coming here first, second generation are probably more open to moving to within Canada or even outside, right?
Right.
And
But my test would be the test I would like to make is differentiate or compare between how you feel as an immigrant by going to back to your home country versus to another country. And I'm talking about immigrants that planned to leave their home countries, like your father, like
yeah,
myself,
yeah,
have lived here for so many years, right? And now they have these ideas about going back to their home countries. Where is it really true, like true feeling of going homesickness?
yeah. I
Or is it actually being craving for another adventure to another place, and I found that myself in Montreal. I went to Montreal and I stopped craving going back to Poland, right, for at least for a while.
yeah,
Okay, that quieted me down, right? So I know that your father was not only going back to Lebanon, right, but
yeah.
also he was moving to other countries, right? Was that kind of filling the gap, of homesickness?
Uh, yeah, maybe. I think a lot of it would have to do with good opportunities, maybe economic career wise. He was every 4 years was given positions within the UN, but he's also traveled and lived in many countries in his adult, when he migrated first to the U.S. and my mom, when they met, they've lived in multiple countries over the years in their adulthood. So,
Hmm.
I mean, they're more open to that, and it's, I don't know if he's necessarily one of the countries they went was Lebanon at the time, but yeah, he's more open, and he's always known and been able to accept moving to other countries and cities.
Right.
So he knows how to adapt, and it's not a big a move for him as per se someone who's never lived anywhere else or even attempted to, or their parents or their grandparents.
Right.
So I mean, there's a lot to that. If you're coming in as an immigrant and the attachment to your new country for one isn't probably as strong, and the roots aren't as strong, so you're more open to moving to other countries or within.
It may
Yeah,
probably
there's a
that's
big
part of the
because yeah,
story,
I mean I
right?
know many people I grew up with here. They have massive extended family that are you know living within the GTA or Southern Ontario. So when you have that type of roots for many generations,
Right.
they may be less susceptible. But I'm not saying they wouldn't live outside, but most of them that lived outside, even as expats, tended to come back at some point.
Yeah.
They
So
may live a year or two in Hong Kong or South America, but they always seem to come back.
yeah. So, but in their minds is okay. I'm going only for a couple of years,
Yeah,
and I'm coming back
my
home, right?
roots.
So
Yeah,
it's a little bit
it's
different,
a
right?
little different. So,
Yeah.
but that's an easier move. But we were kind of like that. Even when
Hmm.
we moved, we knew we were coming back after a year
Hmm.
to Canada. But even though my parents, both of them, weren't from here,
Right.
but it was still kind of our home base. And yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the individual, but generally speaking, I think people that come from immigrant parents or are immigrants themselves, I don't know again the numbers on it, but I'm sure they're much more open to opportunities outside, within or outside of
Right.
their adopted country like Canada, right?
Exactly. It's easy.
It's
I can
much
see it.
easier,
I can see it in
much
my
easier.
daughter. My
Yeah,
Julia, right?
yeah,
She, they had my wife and Julia had a lot of reservations of going from Toronto to moving from Toronto to Montreal.
yeah,
But once they did that, right? Especially Julia is now very open to move anywhere because she knew, like she realizes,
yeah,
okay, it
yeah.
was quite easy
It was
actually.
quite easy.
So what's the deal?
Yeah,
It's not a big deal
it
anymore,
isn't.
right? I know already. I already experienced that. I moved to
You're right.
Canada
You're right.
from Poland. It was a breeze,
Yeah,
right? And then going to the adjustment was a little bit tough the first year, right?
yeah.
The language and all these minor details, right? But then going to Montreal kind of reconfirmed that it is actually doable and it's not that hard,
Hmm.
especially if you know the language, if you know how to get by, and all these things. So I guess it comes with experience, as you said, right?
Yeah,
Being an immigrant, right,
or
gives you that,
experience it, or your parents were or more open or experiencing.
right,
You're probably more open to those, those life changes or life events which would enable you to move, right?
right.
Yeah, it's I mean many factors are involved. I mean, yeah, I would be open to it at some point. You never know, right? If there's a reason to. I mean, but once you get comfortable in a place and
What country are you thinking of?
oh, I don't know. I mean, I
If
don't
you
know.
were to move, what country do you think you would
You're
be
right. At this point,
uh, take advantage
I
to
have to
go?
consider my family, my sons,
Right, right, right. Of
my
course.
wife, whatever. I have to consider many variables. So yeah, it's harder to move if you have a son 8 years
Yeah,
old
and he's going to school,
into a
right?
new
And
school,
your wife
right?
has a job, you have
Yeah,
a job. It's not easy
it's
to.
not easy.
Yeah.
No,
As a
I,
family, it's much harder,
it's
right?
much harder.
Because by yourself, you are more flexible by yourself, right?
But it's not to say we wouldn't or couldn't.
Hmm.
You don't know, right?
Well, looking at your story, right? You were moving from place to place and going to school here and there, right? And then you see it as an advantage, right?
Yeah.
So for your son, it would
Yes.
probably be the same thing,
Yes.
wouldn't it?
Yeah. You're right. What you said. I mean, when as a kid moving, we moved a few times to new countries, so it's more the fear of the unknown. But once you're settled, kids, especially kids, they adopt and assimilate very quickly. So, and you're right, like your daughter, she's done it a couple times, so she's more open to it because she realizes, it's not that challenging, and she's already experienced that. So
That's
I
right.
think it's more people would, they don't want to go and uproot their, living in their comfort zone unless they actually have to, right? So why would
Right.
stress? That's the whole stress inertia model this professor came up with.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, I vaguely remember it, but I remember, there's usually reasons why people would
This is kind of
leave.
a model of why people
Yeah, and
move,
it's
right?
economic, social. There's maybe something lacking economically, socially, or just they're bored and of the monotonous, or they need a change, and
Right.
which causes, I guess, stress,
Right.
right?
What I noticed in my case, right? I've been in Montreal for the last 10 years after the move
Yeah,
from Toronto, and I feel like I guess I would consider moving to another place, right? Whether it's somewhere in Canada or outside of the country, right? But what and I was thinking, and I've been thinking, right? Like, what could be the reason for it, right? Is it just one reason? I don't think there is one reason, but one that I can instantly point out is the language. Okay,
yeah.
Montreal is bilingual, so you can easily get by with English, right? But it depends where you are, whether it's western part of Montreal or
Yeah,
eastern part of Montreal. Sometimes you get into a situation. I don't know what I say, how to say that, funny situations, right? And and for me, it's not so easy to learn the language, the local language,
yeah,
French, right? It's pretty tough,
yeah, yeah.
and you have to commit time. Like
Yes,
with English, I was young enough. I could commit more time to learn
yeah,
it. Now
absolutely.
it's a kind of family
No,
work
it's
and
much
everything.
harder as an
It's much
adult.
harder to do it at this time. Plus the age, right? Like I guess,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, much harder.
so
I mean,
so so I find I've been finding myself kind of trapped in a situation where, okay, I don't want to be in that situation.
yeah,
I don't want to talk like a kid,
yeah,
like knowing a few words here and
yeah,
there, and some structures, grammatical structures,
yeah,
and
yeah,
trying to build a sentence. It just
yeah.
doesn't work, right?
No, no, no. I get
People look at you like, where are you coming from, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. No, it's
so
not
so
easy
I think
learning a
that's a
language.
factor. I think that's one
Absolutely,
of the one
absolutely.
of the elements,
Yeah,
right? And I've been thinking, okay, if I were to move
yeah,
somewhere, it would have to be either Polish language or
yeah,
English language,
yes, yes,
either one, right? Unfortunately, when we speak about Polish language, right,
yeah,
you have only one place to go,
yeah,
right? Of
yes,
course, right? With English, you have more choices,
yeah,
definitely, right?
yeah,
So I guess you would probably. I have a few places in mind,
yeah.
right? So I would probably research them more. But that's what I've been thinking about. This is just the beginning,
Yeah,
the offspring of what may come next,
yeah, yeah. Well,
right?
I mean, yeah, since I've known you, you've always, you get this itch to move, and which is great. I mean, you want to experience new things, new culture, and you've already done it multiple times. So, you know, it's you get. I think you get maybe bored of this monotony of,
Probably that's
after a
another
year,
one.
and you want to experience something. And
Plus an
yeah,
excitement of being in a new
yeah,
place.
it's exciting moving and
Yeah,
meeting people and different, you know, physical, social landscape. It's, yeah, of course. I think
right.
we all think about it, and most people don't actually do it. because it is a lot of work to move
Yeah,
sometimes.
it is difficult.
Yeah,
So the easiest time at this
yeah,
moment, right, is to probably wait for retirement age, and then make a move if
yeah.
you can afford it and if you can
Would you
basically
ever
organize
would
it.
you ever consider like moving to say, I know it's popular with many Canadians, to like Mexico or Central America. Your money goes a lot farther.
Yeah, but you are
Or
moving to
spending
a
half a year there,
right.
like a sunburn.
Yeah,
Like that
it's
maybe.
tempting.
Yeah,
It's tempting because of the cost of living, first of all, climate,
yeah.
right? But there are other, negative sides of
Oh,
the, like,
absolutely.
for example, you have certain places are not that safe, right?
No, exactly.
You have to be picky,
No,
right, about
lots of
that, right?
I
Especially when you go with your family,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
you have to be very careful, right, about that. And I heard some stories, that
So have I, especially
we don't want to name the places, of course,
no,
right? But
but
I've heard some stories, and it's kind of you have to be very careful, right?
absolutely, yeah. I
Yes,
mean
if you're going
that
to.
that is a consideration. You're right. We've all heard stories of certain places, sunny tropical destinations
Right, right, right.
that have ended in horror. So, yeah, no, that's. I mean, so look, the world is getting more complicated. It's you have to really scrutinize,
Exactly,
where
exactly.
you're planning on moving to. I
I've
mean,
made a video recently on liberal democracy
yeah,
and how the countries with that system have been shrinking and shrinking over the last few years,
yeah,
right? Because of like what's happening, right,
yeah.
in the world right now.
So you're very
So I
limited.
counted
Very,
25 countries. There are three sources that I found, and they kind of agree. It's pretty, there are certain objective aspects of it,
yeah,
but there are also subjectivity to it, right?
yeah,
So they had to kind of use their judgment of how they classify
yeah,
those countries, right?
yeah.
But based on those classifications, I counted 25 or 26 countries right now that are liberal democracies, right?
26.
20, about 26,
Wow,
right?
that's
Other than and the rest are either there is a huge amount of countries that are electoral democracies, which is one notch lower, which
yeah,
are pretty safe,
yeah.
quite okay, right?
Like
But there may be in a transition mode to something worse. You never know, right? You have to be very careful. You have
yeah.
to investigate more. You have to research more in those cases,
No, I
right?
mean you're really limited when you break it down like that. So when you break it down in those type of numbers, you're if language is an issue, liberal social democracy is an issue. I could probably count on one hand the countries that would qualify,
Right. Yeah,
right?
I can imagine. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
thinking
it's
about
it's
them.
very few.
Yeah.
So I mean, it depends where. Like if you went to the U.S., if you're looking at a sunny retirement destination, I mean, you're looking at multiple states in the South, right?
Right.
From Florida to Arizona to New Mexico, those type of things,
Right.
California,
Hmm.
and then maybe you know you're looking Europe, I guess.
Yeah,
There's only a handful of countries, I guess,
that's right.
that would
With
qualify
English for sure.
with English. Yeah,
Yeah, with
with
English language.
yeah,
Yeah.
obviously,
Hmm.
and yeah, you're pretty limited if you're breaking it down.
That's right.
You're pretty limited on where you can actually move to.
Yeah. So this is something that
And that's
it's
someone like those you're exactly like me. At this point, those would be my number two criteria. Would be language, culture, basically, where I can
mhm,
my family and I can assimilate, and social political structure.
right. Right.
So
There,
yeah,
there is there is enough problem in life. Why would
yeah,
we have political
yeah.
instability,
Well,
right?
especially coming from Canada, which is
Exactly.
one of the
Exactly.
most stable. I mean, look, Canada's a great country in many ways, as you know. But it has some really long winter stretch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The climate is
Which makes you consider
challenging, right?
wanting to move, every
Oh, yeah.
winter.
So the other criteria
Yeah,
would be a little bit warmer,
yeah,
more
a little bit,
milder climate,
a little
right?
bit.
Yeah.
I mean, would you move to the U.S.? I don't know. I mean, it's,
I would,
but
but there is one aspect that
yeah,
kind of scares me off.
what's that?
Freedom, the easiness of possessing guns.
Yes, yes.
It's scaring me off.
So if you eliminate the U.S. English speaking exposure,
That's the only item,
you only
the
have.
only thing,
I think you only
you
have
know.
about 3 countries you can go to. You only have, yeah, very few. But look, I get it. Most of a lot of my relatives are in the U.S. And I think it depends where, which state, which city. If you go to the Northeast, from Washington up, they're very similar to us, even out west.
Hmm.
But their gun laws, maybe a little bit stricter, but they're not Canada, obviously. I mean, they're not open carry like Texas or Florida, and you know, which is
Yeah, it's like
which
I
is the
wouldn't I
wild.
wouldn't want to carry, right?
No, no,
But I kind of, on the other hand, I would feel that I would have to, and
yeah,
that would make me uneasy, right?
yeah, no,
Like,
no, I agree with you. It's a big concern, and I think most of the people in the U.S. feel the same, but it's one of the it's a very politicized issue, and
for
it's
sure.
not
Yeah.
one easy. But you're right, I would take that into consideration, especially coming from here.
Right, right.
We're not used to those lax guns.
Yeah, but we'll see how it goes, right? Like,
Yeah,
we still have time for our retirement, so things may change
yeah,
along the
yeah,
way,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
you never know, right?
You never.
So I've been searching the map, looking here and there.
Yeah,
I have to research it more, but there are a couple of areas, British areas, like
yeah,
Gibraltar.
yeah. You
Gibraltar,
mentioned.
one of
Yeah, which
one of
would
those
be great.
that I noticed, right? Like,
Yeah,
kind of draw my attention,
yeah. No, it's a great.
right?
It would be interesting. Yeah, I could see that. What would you do there?
Well, like,
Are you looking at
not
retiring?
career wise,
Oh,
not
retiring.
more retirement, right?
I don't know
So,
much about it,
right.
but I mean,
And I would be close to Poland,
yeah,
right?
it's
Like,
beautiful. Yeah,
it's because I would like to link the three places: Poland, place like
Canada.
that, plus Canada, because I
Yeah,
have family here too, right?
so it's not bad.
So I wouldn't want to leave Canada for good, Like, I would like to be here too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But we want to be everywhere, right? Like,
yeah. No,
it's why think of that? Do it,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think we all think about it. It's nice to think of what you could maybe do in retirement.
Right. So that's a really interesting subject. I think we should expand on it next
Yeah,
time we meet, and I'm sure there is a lot more factors and elements that we should consider.
absolutely, absolutely.
All right. Great conversation.
Okay, great
Till next
conversation.
time.
Till next time. Thanks.